Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. If you're here, it's because you're interested in how to either refine or, in some cases, maybe create your cover letter. So, really excited today. We have our special guest, Kokei Otosi. She is currently a senior consultant at IBM. She graduated from her undergrad at NYU, just recently got her MBA from Berkeley, class of 2022. And in her time at Berkeley, she was actually a grad student instructor. And one of the reasons why I thought she was great for this because she helped with storytelling for leadership and leadership communication. So I've seen her presentation already and I'm super excited for it because it's a lot of great content. And yeah, Olivia's shouting out Berkeley. But yeah, really excited. So without further ado, they're all yours. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. It means a lot. And it means a lot that you're here, given that you've never met me before and you've trusted me to help you spend your time for the next few minutes that we're together. And hi to those of you who are just joining. My name is Kokei, and I'm going to be leading our session. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. Awesome. Okay, great. So yes, we're here to discuss cover letters. Let's dive in. This is a photo of an amazing license plate that I saw somewhere. I believe I saw it here in LA. I love license plates that are funny and I take lots of pictures of them. And the reason I included this photo instead of a photo of me, I think it's hysterical when people give presentations and include their photo because you're looking at them, is that oftentimes when people think about cover letters, they bug out. Cover letters are pretty annoying and can be really frustrating, but we're going to talk about a very simple formula that you can utilize to help you be less stressed when you have to create a cover letter. What is the point of a cover letter? Why do we even write them? Why do employers even ask for them? A cover letter is a really cool opportunity for you to demonstrate to your employer who you could potentially be if given a chance at their organization. A resume, and I know you all had a resume workshop relatively recently, so you probably all learned, or the idea was reinforced, that a resume is a reflection of what you've done in the past and who you are at the present, right now. This is who I am, this is what I do. And for a lot of you, maybe that's student. That is who I am, that is what I do right now. However, a cover letter is a chance to say, hey, potential employer, this is who I could be. If you took a chance on me, if you gave me the tools, the resources, and put me in a particular position, I could be this, and I could bring this to you based on my experience. So based on the retrospective of information that you've included in your resume. It's a nice chance for you to say, I've built on these skills, I've developed these skills, but they don't define me. You know, oftentimes when you're submitting a cover letter to a job, someone, I can't remember who, mentioned potentially applying to internships. When you're applying to those roles, perhaps it's a new stretch opportunity. Perhaps it's something that you've never done before. That's perfectly okay and actually encouraged for us to, try to apply to something that we've never done before and that's new. So a cover letter gives you a chance to say, even though I don't necessarily have this direct experience, here's how I can build on my previous experience to serve you, the employer, really well. So here are the basic elements of a cover letter. Some employers have started to eliminate the requirement of a cover letter. I'm not sure if you all have heard that as you've been applying for jobs or internships. Some people find them to be such a hassle. But I would say that even if applying for a job, if I really, really want it, even if a cover letter isn't required, I will still absolutely submit one because, again, it offers a unique opportunity for me to talk myself up and make the employer excited about me. And that's one that a resume doesn't necessarily provide. So this is a snapshot of what a cover letter looks like. You may have seen one before. For those of you who've written one before, perhaps this is a similar structure that you came up with. And this is actually a real cover letter that I submitted to a job that I worked. I think I worked this job for 2 years before going to business school. But I wrote the actual cover letter 5 years ago, which is crazy. What is time? So strange. I ended up getting that job is the headline of that. So this cover letter was pretty successful. It ended up being a really great job. I was working as a consultant in Miami, helping the city think about their climate change strategy. And I'll say that I didn't have direct expertise in that particular area, but the cover letter, as I've shared, helped me explain how my experience was applicable and ultimately led to me getting the job. I would change some of the language if you're, reading through it specifically, but generally I feel great about this structure. The first thing that I'll note here, and this is very important, is that a cover letter should be 1 page, no more than a page. The people who are going to be reviewing your cover letter are very, very busy, and often they are just scanning for some keywords, quite frankly, and we'll get to that in a second. So you really don't want to put them off by submitting a novel about your experience. You want to keep it to a page. And actually that's pretty nice, right? Because if you look at all this peripheral information, if you look at the address of the job, if you look at the signature, you realize that really the meat of what you're submitting is less than half a page of text. Phew. So such a relief. You're actually not producing that much draft text. All right, so let's do the very first section, which is what I call the addressee. And that is the person who is going to be reviewing the application. It is very important, very, very important that you include a very specific contact as part of your cover letter. And you want to include it in this format. You want to include the name of the person, their department, the company, and the company's address, along with the date as a header for your letter. I will note that something like this seems really unimportant, right? It can seem very, very trivial to make sure that you have such a specific header on a cover letter, but people really do look at the formality that you present. You want to make sure that whatever you're delivering looks super polished so that they start to get the sense that if you were hired, that you would represent them well, that you're with it, that you understand the process. And so it's really important actually that you nail this part of the cover letter. I also will say that it's really important that you find a specific contact to direct the cover letter to. And you want it to be the person who will be directly reviewing the application. You'll see here in this case, it happened to be the associate director of the department that I was applying to. And she was specifically listed explicitly as the resume reviewer or the cover letter reviewer. But in some cases, most cases, I would say, it's not the head of the team. It's definitely not the president or the CEO of the company. It's often someone in HR. Sometimes companies are really nice and they will specifically tag the person who will be reviewing the application in the job posting. So I took a snapshot or a screenshot rather of this post that I found in LinkedIn, and it explicitly says who will be reviewing. So I would take, if I was writing this letter applying to this job, I would take Sharon's name and I'd put her in my cover letter. But sometimes it's a little bit harder to find. And I would really encourage you to do some research. You can go to their website and pick a name from someone in HR who's potentially staffed to that department, and you can drop them into your cover letter. Worst case scenario, you can just say, address the letter to hiring manager. Often if you run out of ideas about where to look, that is perfectly acceptable. So what I will say about the intro is you're basically asking someone to read between the lines and tell them they're the perfect match. You want to ensure that you are mentioning that you've done some research about the organization and you think they're really cool, and this is specifically why. You want to make it sound like you're very excited to join the team because of the work that they've done, because of their reputation, whatever it may be. Essentially, you're communicating, as I say here, that you're soulmates, that you respect the organization, and that the work that you've done has lended to you being a really strong candidate to join them in the future. Here are some quick tips, basically, to summarize that. So one, mention the role. This is important. In the first sentence of the intro, you want to explicitly state what the role is. Dear Jessica Lax, I'm excited to apply for the role of XYZ. Second quick tip is you want to have one sentence about the company. And again, you want this sentence to validate the fact that you've done a lot of research and that you've really done your homework to understand what this company or organization is, what they're about. And then two, you want to have one sentence about why you specifically make sense there. What is it about your skills, your passions that would allow you to join this organization and carry on their work? All right, so this is where we get to really the meat of the cover letter. And this is the part that people find often the most daunting because it does require quite a bit of work. So in these two paragraphs, this is where I talked about my skills and how they align with the role, how my skills have set me up to do this new role really well. I put in these surrounding boxes keywords that I pulled directly from the job posting. That is very important. You want to make sure that you pull specific information from the job posting and put it directly into your cover letter. And I'm not saying that you're copying and pasting paragraphs from the job posting and dropping them in. The whole purpose of this is to make it very easy for someone looking at your cover letter. I mentioned people in HR who are going to be very quickly going through these. You want them to be able to directly look at your cover letter and align it to the job posting. Oftentimes, people who are reviewing cover letters are actually not the ones who are going to be running the team that you're working on. So for example, as I mentioned earlier, in many cases, if Jessica Lax didn't happen to be the one that was the head of the team, even if she was the one who I ultimately would be working most closely with, if that company had an HR, I would have gone through HR. But in this case, I was applying to a job at a really small company who just didn't have the infrastructure for a big HR team. So oftentimes, the people who you're going to ultimately be working with aren't the ones who are reviewing your application, or at least in the first round. And so you really want to make it so easy for them to not have to read between the lines here to be able to say specifically, oh, they say project management on the job posting, and here is how she did project management at her last job. I will say that in this section, you want to provide a fuller picture of the work that you've done in the past. So you want to include more specific details about your experiences. This is very different from your resume, right? Your resume is very succinct. It's a very quick snapshot of perhaps some work that you've done and maybe a result of the work that you've done. But here you can get to more tactical information. So some questions you might ask yourself are, one, what approach did I take for tackling a responsibility that I list on my resume? Two, what details would I include if I was telling someone a story about a project that I was managing in the past? Three, what is it about my personality, my passion, or my work ethic that made me really, really good at getting this job done? Those are all things that you want to include in this section. So here are, in summary, quick tips. So one, you want this section to be 2 to 3 paragraphs max. And I would say you should feel very comfortable including just 2 paragraphs in this section. And that's because, again, we only want our cover letter to be 1 page. 2, you want to tie in specific expectations that are directly listed in the job description into your cover letter. 3, if you don't have specific expertise or experience in an area that the job description has highlighted, you want to mention something that is perhaps related. And I'm going to go back to my cover letter here to give you an example of that. So prior to taking on this job, I had been managing a project that allowed me to work with 3 different contracts. So I was working with 3 different companies on this project. For this new job that Jessica Lax at Van Allen was hiring for, the job description rather said that whoever was hired would be responsible for managing a multi-contract, multi-year portfolio. I didn't necessarily have that exact experience managing a portfolio. And at my last job, the job prior to this one, I had been working on a team of people. All of us were managing this portfolio together, but I did have specific contracts that I managed. And so I spoke to that experience and drew a line from that experience to this multi-contract, multi-year portfolio work that they were asking me to do with this new role. I hope that makes sense. And lastly, you really want to mention the unique opportunity to utilize your skills that this role will provide. You, again, want it to be forward-looking. You want to emphasize the fact that your previous skills have served as a foundation for you to step into this new role. So those are all the do's. Here are some don'ts. So one, again, you don't want to make it overly long. Train yourself to stick to 2 to 3 paragraphs. That can be hard. It can be hard if you have a lot of cool ideas about things you've done, internships you've had, volunteer experiences that might seem relevant. But again, you want to be as succinct as possible. Please don't make it generic. It's very easy to tell when someone has mass shot out a bunch of cover letters and hasn't really changed anything. Again, whoever's reviewing this will be looking for specific keywords from the job description and want to see those reflected in your cover letter. Next, you really don't want to use your cover letter as a way to confess your shortcomings or the ways that you're not perfect for the job. Be confident. Make sure that you were talking about the experience that you've had, and again, demonstrate how you could step into, based on that experience, step into something, a bigger role in the future. It's totally okay if you are not perfectly equipped for the role. Totally fine. But do not use this as a place to acknowledge the fact that perhaps you're not perfect. Your reviewer doesn't expect to see that and doesn't really want to see that. But also, to that point, don't exaggerate. I would encourage you not to feel like you have to talk yourself up more than necessary in your cover letter. Not only will it not set you up for success if you were to get the job and suddenly you're put in a situation where people have all these expectations of you based on what you've said about yourself that was false, but also it could prevent you from getting the job in the first place if the hiring manager decides to call your previous employer or someone you did a project with and learns that you didn't actually have the experience that you said you did. Don't exaggerate, it will only hurt you. And lastly, don't summarize your resume. As I mentioned, your resume is, a quick, succinct snapshot of work you've done and perhaps some of your outcomes. And you really want to use this opportunity to give more background information, more details about what you did in the past and provide some additional color that you couldn't provide in the limited space of your resume. The last section is the closing. And this is one of those peripheral sections which, perhaps might seem that it's not important. You perhaps think, okay, if they've read the meat of my cover letter, then maybe they're not paying so much attention to your closing. But you really want to close strong. You want to re-emphasize the fact that you are a good candidate for this position. You want to re-emphasize the fact that you love this organization, that you're excited about it. And one thing, this last sentence that I included here about looking forward to discussing the position in greater detail is actually something that can really help you sound very confident and sound sure that you are right for the job and everyone else will think so. So even that type of language is really beneficial to include here. We're coming in toward the end of the cover letter. So you absolutely want to sign the document. There are some, platforms that allow you to create a digital signature. That's what I did for this one. And you absolutely should if you can. Otherwise, I have done this in the past. Print the document, sign it by hand, and then take a picture of on your phone and save it as a PDF, or otherwise scan it and create it into a PDF. Those little touches will make you seem very professional, very with it, very ready to be hired. And similarly, you want to include your contact information here. Yes, you include it on your resume. And yes, oftentimes if you're submitting an application online, they will ask you for your contact information. Again, we want to make this look clean. We want to look professional. So do include your contact information on this page. I will say that there are some templates that will ask you to put your contact information at the top. Some people are now becoming okay with contact information at the bottom. That is a stylistic choice. I will leave that up to you, but always make sure that you have it. So that's it. We have just waved our magic wand and created a cover letter. Totally not true. We've worked really hard to ensure that we've found the right contact at the company, to ensure that we've done some research about the company so that we can demonstrate why it is that we're so excited about them. We've done a lot of research to pull out specific words from the job description and incorporate them into our cover letter. And we've done a great job of elaborating on some of the information in our resume to give a fuller picture of who we are. Cover letters, resumes too, but specifically in this case, cover letters are a lot of work. They do take some time and some effort. But if you are thinking about the structure, if you are thinking about this formula that we've discussed, you can actually get really, really fast at doing them. I will say that I have gotten very fast at doing cover letters, and they are significantly less painful to me than they were before. In closing, I want to remind you all that you can do it. You can do it. There are a lot of really awesome opportunities awaiting you. And there's just this little impediment in the way, this annoying little impediment called the cover letter in the way, but you are so ready, you're so prepared. And, something that we haven't talked about is even how to shape different types of experiences for a cover letter, whether it's volunteering, whether it's, working at a company of your friend, whether it's babysitting, whatever it may be, you have experience. And everyone has been in the position that you're in. I was once in high school looking for a job. I was once in early college looking for a job with, very little experience, but I was able to craft the experience that I did have to make myself marketable to a company or an organization. So it's very possible. And I know it may seem hard and challenging, but you will work through it. And I'm happy to have hopefully equipped you with some skills to approach cover letters in the future. There is a website, let me find it, that I wanted to share with you. This platform is called The Muse, and they have just such awesome information for applying to jobs, for negotiating salaries, all sorts of things related to employment. And I very much encourage you to leverage the information they have on their website. They have templates for cover letters. They even have some advice about how to incorporate keywords that will help make you attractive into resumes and cover letters. So I strongly recommend that you look into that resource.
So once again, thank you so much, Kokei. This was such a great presentation, so much good content. I really appreciate you volunteering for this. You just got a lot out of it. They had some good questions. So thank you. But we are done for today. Everybody have a great rest of your Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care, everybody.
Stay cool.